Look Zamit.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot lately about action figures.
Sweet.
Mostly because I don't think they're quite up to par with the ones I remember, with their big feet, and they have really big feet these days. and they're child's safe, new technology. What I remember was Lego cannons that could shoot kids' eyes out. I remember G.I. Joe's that they said like kung fu action, but what it really meant was I can't control my leg action. That when you had silly putty, it was poisonous. if you had battle armor and fumes and closed spaces without windows being open, it was not so much fun to wake up from that sometimes. And what it reminds me of right now, because I'm in the middle of the hardest class I've ever been in, and I'm learning about this thing called an archetype, which means foundation, is this idea of this dawn phase, which means at the very beginning you're born and you become aware of something. So like the dawn phase of these action figures to me was, wow, these are incredibly amazing. These are awesome. And then when you move from the dawn phase to the sunrise phase, where like nothing can go wrong and you can really succeed. So all of a sudden like your G.I. Joe with their can't control leg action is obviously the most excellent figure around. Until you come to a figure that might be able to control its leg. And then comes the darkness phase, where you're like, man, this is actually a pretty like subpar figure. And then you come, well actually that's the fall phase, when you're falling from sunrise. And then you get to the darkness where you're like, this figure is lame and I will not be playing with it anymore. But then you go back to the dawn phase because of fire. And so the cycle goes round and round and round. And the class reminds me of that, because in most classes you're just like that. You start with the dawn phase. You sign up for your class because either you have to or it looks pretty cool. You're there, you're like, this is good, this is going to be amazing. You go to the bookstore, give them your order, like, books up, slam! Give you your books. Then you go to class, and you give them the syllabus. And the syllabus says, hey, here's what you have to do on these dates. You have a whole hell of a lot of time to get done. You're like, yeah, procrastination! Then you get to the fall phase, where it's like, man, I'm totally screwed. And then you finally end up in the darkness phase, where because you've screwed yourself, you end up with a grade, or a performance, or a paper that isn't up to the level that you'd want it to be. Now, in the class I'm in, this is totally done out of whack, because when we started out, we got our book. So the dawn phase was in there, and that was fine. And then we get to the class, and the first day of class, we're told, students, I'm giving you an impossible assignment. What? What are you talking about? An impossible assignment? Fetal positions, tears. Like there were literally students crying because we were told at the very beginning that we couldn't procrastinate. And despite the fact that it was impossible, she still expected us to succeed and to accomplish everything that she put forth and give to us in the syllabus. So we're like, all right, whatever, we'll get through this together. And it's really amazing, because when you get rid of that procrastination phase, you go right into that fall phase where you're like, I'm totally screwed. I'm not actually going to do anything that I'd actually be proud of. You actually make something you're proud of. And when it comes back to the action figures and their designers, and thinking about maybe those designers had realized how terrible they were bringing about those figures from old, those heroes, those mighty archetypes of heroes, and how they could never ever pull together in an action figure what it meant to be a hero to a kid. Maybe they wouldn't have made such terrible action figures.